You did a great
Thank you.
job. Really,
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
was really nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm very embarrassed. I forgot to zoom in. I'll have to call Anna separately.
I did send it to you.
I know, and I responded.
And you
on-
responded. You actually
I
responded.
know,
Good.
I know, but if I don't get a reminder, I'm not good.
Oh, okay.
It was so
Not-
nice,
You
Maria.
owed me a reminder. I'm not saying that. It just slipped my mind.
You know, we had 41 connections. So there
Oh.
were around
Was
Eight-
really nice, really,
80
really
Really
nice.
nice.
80 people, more or less.
Wow.
Wow.
Sydney, I see you're sitting in the sun.
Not too much, a little bit, not too much.
Okay, so we are in the middle of the Shimshon story. It's going to get even more interesting today.
Ernie, can I add something?
Please.
I was reading Pinnacle of Creation by Rabbi Leibovitz from Chafetz Chaim, and
Okay.
he talks about Vayetze Elechav from the parsha that it says Vayetze Elechav Vayar B'Sivlotam, how
Yes.
Moshe saw, that it says Rashi explains that Moshe set his eyes and heart to feel pain for them. And I just thought it was interesting, the difference between Moshe, what he's setting his eyes on, and Shimshon.
Right.
That you were saying that the eyes are what brought down Shimshon's, that was the cause of Shimshon's downfall.
Right. Very, and Moshe used his eyes to see the plight of his fellow Jew. Okay. By the way, the at the end of at the end of last week's shir, Suzanne had asked, Shimshon is considered a great tzaddik. Yes, but then we talked about Rav Aaron Kotler, who talked about the problem with A9. And I just want to read you from the Rambam, okay? This is in Hilchos Isurei Bia, Perek Yud Gimel, Halacha Tet Zayin. It goes through, this is going through how you do. It says, Al Yale Al Daitcha Shimshon HaMoshiach Yisrael. Don't think that Shimshon, who saved Israel, O Shlomo Melech Yisrael, Shenikra Yedidya, Nasu Noshim Nachrios Begoyosam, that they married non-Jewish women. Remember, Shlomo had 1,000 wives, which we hopefully will get to that when we get to Sefer Malachim. So he says, really, they were Megayah. And so that's in Yudal. Then in Tet Zayin he says, Ulefi shegier Shlomo noshim v'nosan. Shlomo converted his wives and married them. V'chein Shimshon gier v'nosa. So it's very clear. I mean, the Rambam is not a parshan on Shoftim, right? We learned the Radak, we learned the Rabag. They also said that. It could be that, one of the things they're basing it on is on this Rambam. It says, though, these women converted for a specific reason. And I didn't go through the halachic paragraphs, but if somebody comes to the base and they want to convert because of money, or because they want to marry someone, or because of pacha, right? You're not allowed to accept them. So because they came for a reason, and therefore law be based in Giyur, so Bezdin was not happy that these Giyurim took place. That's why when you read the Psukim, it sounds like Hibamish married Goyim, but that's not the case. The Rambam says it's because they were Megayer, but there were some problems with the Giyur. V'od shochiat sofan al tchilason. Really, the end of what happened here, we'll see clearly in the case of Shlomo, showed that the initial part was not good. Shehein oivdos avodah zar shlan. The women continued to worship avodah zar. Uvanalan bamos, they built bamos. Ve'el olav akasu kilu hu banon. Shenemer az yivne Shlomo bama. Later on in Melachim it says, "Oh, Shlomo HaMelech built a bama." Rambam says he didn't build it, but because his wives built it, it's considered as if he built it. So I just bring this Rambam to you see, Shimshon is a tragic figure. He's a great tzaddik. He's a great nazir, and we're gonna. But these are the things we've been dealing with in these shiur. Okay, so we last week he got married, and then they, the friends. He told them a riddle, and the friends made his wife reveal the riddle, and then he got upset. And he left his wife, and he went back to his home. But in the meantime, his wife's father married her off to one of those shushbinim. So we're on Perek Tezvav. Vayim yamim b'meik tzir chitim. We'll see. So it comes in the time of harvest season, and we'll see why he waited until then. Vayivkod Shimshon et ishto b'gdizim. Shimshon wanted to have a renewal with his wife, so he brought a gift of gdizim. Vayomer avoa el ishti achedra, and he comes to the father. The wife is living with the father, and he wants to go into the room. And the father doesn't allow him access because she's a married woman.
Who is she married to now?
One of the shushbinim, one of those 30 groomsmen who was at his wedding.
And Shimshon didn't know that when he
did.
came back? Oh, okay.
Well, no. First, Vayichara po vayal beit avihu. He left. Now, in his leaving, the family assumed that he divorced her, and that's why they married her off to somebody else. So, by the way, we don't hold of that, right? She was from her family was a Plishtim family, but for example, by the Ben Noach, there is a concept of marriage by Ben Noach, and there's a concept of divorce. All they have to do is say leave, and if the husband says leave, that's the divorce. They don't need a sefer krisus, a written get like Jews need.
But if she was Megayir, so then she would have been, she would have needed krisus.
Exactly. So she was certainly violating znus. Now the father didn't convert, right? So he was doing this as a conciliatory gesture. His absence from his wife was meant to express his displeasure at the behavior of his wife, who revealed the riddle to the people. But now that she was married, now that she's married to another, the father, won't allow that. Let's see the next pasuk, which will give us a little bit more detail. Then we'll come back to some of the Meforshim. Vayomer Avia, Amor Amarti ki sanos neta. Now, I told your wife that you had hated her, and vetnena l'merecha, and I gave her as a wife to one of your friends. Halo achota haktana tova mimena. She has a younger sister who's more beautiful, she's more successful. Tihina lacha tachteha. You can marry her instead of the wife that you married. That's what the father proposes. Of course, this enrages Shimshon. So the Ralbag says, "V'achar zeh b'mei ktsir chitim hayashav Shimshon livkod et ishto b'dizim v'chashav lavo elai." He wanted to consummate his marriage again. V'higid lo avia ki nisanal amrei li shalach hashvo shekvar sneya. But the father told Shimshon that no, I had told your wife that you had hated her. Ulafaisa ratzah, and to make Shimshon feel better, he offered her the younger daughter. Now the Minchas Ketana says, by waiting until the Ktsir Chitim, bazeh hera avatola v'shemachal kol asher astalo. It was a sign that he had forgiven her for what she had done to him. And that's why Valkein ba bazeh azban, klomar, ki lechatzeu godel ava she'afal pi she'atahu eita katsir, even though now is the harvest time. And most people, kol echad poneh l'tvuato, goes to their fields to harvest grain, lesofato habayta, to bring it into the house. But Shimshon hiniach hakol uva livkod es ishto. He left everything to come to his wife. That's what the Minchas Ketana says is a siman that he was loving her again. And then he brought this goat, and that was a siman. Remember, this pasuk said that he had tore the lion open like a gedi. So by bringing the gedi as a siman that he forgave her for the whole riddle business with the lion. That's what the Minchas Ketana wants to say. Now, we're going to see very soon what Shimshon is going to do in retribution, in anger. And
Is his coming back a ruse?
so far, the way that the Ralbag is saying, it's not a ruse.
Uh-huh.
But he's going to use the fact that now his father said, I gave her in marriage to somebody else. So that's a pretext for now hacking them again. Because the issue is going to be, why didn't the people, everyone know he got married? Why are the people of the town quiet in the face of adultery? So that part's going to be used as a pretext to give them punishment. Not only that, the punishment is going to be, we'll see, Zemin Hashem sheyeh be'et she'tvuah b'kamotev yisaref hakol. He's going to burn the fields down, and we'll see in a very special way. And he waited to the Ktsir Chitim so that the fields would all get destroyed when you're waiting to harvest it. That's a big punishment. So Shimshon says, Vayomer lahem Shimshon, Niketi hapam miplishtim. Now I'm gonna be clean. My conscience is clean because I'm gonna now do revenge, and I deserve to do revenge. The Malbim says, Ki bevadai nasu hanisuin befarhesia. When they got married, it was done publicly. Lama lo michu, why didn't the people of the community protest latate eshes ish la'acher, to give a married woman to somebody else? Remember, the Ben Noach, one of the Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach is marriage. They also are not allowed to commit adultery. Now, we're not to say that the Plishtim were keeping the Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach. I'm just saying that even in non-Jewish world, adultery is not considered normal. The Metzudas David, look at the Metzudas David you have. On the case, he says, Apamazot, Eyena Kime Plishtim. Now, Kasher Aselahem Ra, when I'm going to do bad, no one's going to blame me. Ki lo yachshavu li lashmal ki maharoi la raimem. Look at all the bad that they're doing to us. To me. I'm just looking at now I need to test both. Okay. Weiter. Vayelech Shimshon, vayilkod 300 shualim. He took 300 foxes. Vayikach lapidim. He took torches. Vayifen zanav el zanav. He put the two foxes tail to tail and tied a torch between the two foxes. Well, the two foxes are tail to tail, and the torches are between them. Vayasem lapid echad ben shnei aznavot batavach. And he puts them in the middle, the torches between the two tails. And he set them loose in the fields. Vayaver ish eish balapidim. He lit a fire. Vayishalach bekamot plishtim. He sent them into the standing grain of the plishtim. Vayaver migadish vad kama vad kerem zayit. He destroyed all the grain, the vineyards, everything was destroyed. Now, the Gemara in Sota, Daf Yud Amud Aleph. Vayelech Shimshon vayikod 300 shualim. Maishna shualim. Why did he take foxes? What is with this? What is this whole thing? Omer Avevu bar Nagdi, Omer of Chia bar Avo, Omer Shimshon, Yavo mi shechozer la'achorav, v'parami plishtim shechazru b'shvuatan. So Avram Avinu made a shvua with Avimelech that neither would attack each other. And remember, we said the plishtim have now been dominating in the Klal Yisrael. So they broke the shvua. So being chozer, going back. So in a fox, as they retreat, they're always going backwards. So that's why he used the shual. It's sort of mida keneged mida for the fact that the plishtim violated the shavua with the grandfather Avram Avinu.
And like the coyotes in our neighborhood?
Like the coyotes, exactly. Right. The zeh shechazru me'ashvua va'abrit shekarat Avram Avinu v'Avimelech melech plishtim shlo yasu ra'achar l'chaveiro v'hema hitchilu l'chosas Yisrael. That's the Musar Nevi'im explaining the way we explain. Now, vayomru plishtim mi asazot. So the plishtim, of course, are upset. Who did this? Vayomru Shimshon chatana timni. Shimshon and the father-in-law.
Son-in-law, no?
Well, Shimshon is the son-in-law. Lakachet ishto, because and they're also upset with the father-in-law, with the father of his wife. Kilakachet ishto vayitna l'mereu. It's the father who gave the wife to this other guy. Vayalu plishtim vayisrefu ota vetavia ba'esh. They burnt the wife and the father-in-law in fire. Shimshon's not around. They don't have Shimshon. We'll see. They're going to try, but they kill the father-in-law. Well, Vayomer lehem Shimon im tasun kazot. Now it's double. Not only were you quiet when my wife was an adulteress, you allowed it to happen. Now look at you're killing her and killing the father. Now I won't stop until I take revenge against you. I cannot let you escape without retribution. I will take vengeance against you, and thereafter I will cease. That's it. I will stop, but the vengeance I'm going to take. Says the Malbim, Im tasun kazot. If this is what you're going to do, Ratzalomar, Kimasha tzarfu ota. The fact that they burned his wife, lo haya bavura ma'isa shezinsa. They weren't punishing her for adultery. Rak lashkit kas Shimshon. They thought they were reducing Shimshon's anger. Because obviously they thought Shimshon was upset with his wife for marrying somebody else. Omar ani chashavti shadai be'onish mammon. And Shimshon says, the Malbim says to himself, initially I thought, well, maybe I'm just going to ask money from you. But now you've stepped it up. La'anish be'onish nefashot. Now you're killing people. Im kain gam ani avakesh mikem nefashot kiminavchem. I'm going to follow your minhag and I'm going to take lives from you as well. That's what it means, ki im nikamti bachem. And the Radak says, im mitchila, keshigazdam, when you, keshigaztem et ishti asitem zot. Let's say you would have burnt her when the father gave her to the new husband. Shesaraftem otav es beis avia hayatov. Shimshon would not have had a problem with that. Aval atashlo chashashtem mitchila. You didn't care initially what she did. Ad shebikashti ani dini mikem. Because I wanted justice. Lo echdal adayim. I'm not going to stop until I really inflict damages on you. Pasuk ches. Vayachotam shok al yarech makagdola. That's called thigh on calf. The shok is the thigh, the yarech is the calf. We'll see in a minute what that means. Makagdola. Vayered vayeshev b'seif sela etam. Smiting them calf over thigh. I guess shok.
What's the calf and what's the thigh?
Shok is calf. Yarech
Yarech is a thigh.
right. So calf over thigh. It's an expression meaning a decisive victory or a great blow. And then after he did that, he went to sit in a rock. There was like a crevice in a rock called Sela Etam. Now, Rashi brings the Targum Onkelos, or Targum Yonasan, that Rashi says that a rider supports his weight with his calf because a rider sits on stirrups, right? So all of the weight is there in the calf. An infantry soldier walks primarily, the thigh gives the main thrust, the quadriceps. So it means he killed both parashim, imraglim. He killed horsemen and he killed infantry. That's what Rashi says. A rider puts all of his weight on his calf, not on his thigh. That's called the stirrup.
You're saying they destroyed both the infantry and the cavalry.
The infantry and the cavalry, correct. Pasuk test. Vayalu plishtim, vayachanu b'Yehuda, vaynatshu balechi. So remember, Yehuda is right next to Plishtim. There's Dan, and then there's Yehuda, and the Plishtim were dominating Yehuda. And Lechi is a place near this Sela HaEtam. We'll see why it was called Lechi. Lechi means a jaw. So meanwhile, the Plishtim, what are they coming here for? Vayomru ish Yuda lama lisem aleinu. What are you doing here? Vayomru lesor et Shimshon alinu. We're coming to take Shimshon captive. Lasot lo kashar salanu. To do to him what he did to us. He destroyed our fields. He killed us. We're seeking retribution from Shimshon. And we're seeking your help in getting him and bringing him to us. So therefore, the pasuk says, "Vayerdu shloshet alafim ish miyuda 3,000 Judean soldiers descend El Seif Sela Etam. They go to the rock of Etam where Shimshon is. Vayamulu Shimshon, Halo Yadata, Ki Moshlim Banu Plishtim. I mean, what are you doing stirring up the hornet's nest? You know that the Plishtim are dominating us. Umazot asita lanu. Vayomer lahem, kasher asuli ken asiti lahem. The way they treated me, I treated them. Now, are the Judeans allowed to give up Shimshon? So
Well, he started a fight.
if you're living, Ellen, if you're living in a town in Europe 300 years ago, and the king comes and surrounds the ghetto where the Jews lived, and they say, you need to give us Chaim Yankel. Are you allowed to give him over to the authorities?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
No.
so let's learn the Malbim.
No, but
Let's learn the Malbim, and we're going to learn more. Bring me the Taz too. Ki adinu she'odei kechavim she'amru tnulanu echad mikem v'nargenu. If Goyim come to a city and say, give us one of the Jews that's in the city, we're going to kill him, lo yimseruhu l'das harambam hilchas yisodi haTorah. Ela im kein chayiv misa k'sheva ben bichri. Unless the person is chayiv misa, not just chayiv misa in Jewish court, but even chayiv misa in the Goyish court, then you have to give him up. Because there was a case, Sheva ben Bichri, the Malchus wanted him, and the Jewish people were allowed to give Sheva ben Bichri up. Ratzaloymar, Avsheinu chayiv midin Torah, rak midin Malchus. Even though Torah law, he would not be killed, but the Malchus wants to kill him. V'chein, im haya rodef rabim, sha'ayado yagia sakana l'klal Yisrael. Let's say this person, like perhaps the way Shimshon did, he stirred up the hornet's nest, and they're going to come and wipe out Klal Yisrael. Az mosrimoto. Af lo sheyechaduhu. You can't miyached him. You have to do it in a way where it's not that clear that you can give him up. Basically, let's read the Taz. Give me the Shoftim. The Taz is in Yoredei Kuf Nun Zayin, Hilchos Avodas Kechavim. The Taz is Ches. Near the Lahachi Nafta Keshevet Ben Bichri. Why did it say that if it's like Shevet Ben Bichri? Kedesh Shevi Ramokan, excuse me. Davol Pita Bedin Torah Lo Eichayv Misel Mitzad Chok HaMalchus. Shevet Ben Bichri was Morad B'David. He was Chayv Misa because he rebelled against David HaMelech. He called Malcolm Oisrum so Im Yachdu, you can tie him up. Uminoaf is Manenu Misha Poshea. Umorebe Malchus, somebody who is a criminal and is rebelling against the government. Moisrin also. V'hu adin b'shara veros she'echad muchzik behen. Somebody, a counterfeiter. You give him up. When I roil him so, I feel him loyachdu, even if they didn't identify him. Even shu kamo rodef, l'shar Yisrael. It's a rodef. Ayidei masav aroim kisha osa pshia kein nirali b'zeh. Okay, so it seems like the tribe of Yehuda understood that he was like a rodef to the klal.
Was the Shevet of Yehuda, were they under the control of the Plishtim?
Yes.
So they were not independent.
No. Remember, the Plishtim are ruling over, taxes, and they are Moishel over this area. Dan, Yehuda. Remember, it's not global, it's around where the Plishtim were.
Mhm.
So, Vayomru lo lesarchaya radni. So the Judeans tell Shimshon, we're coming to bind you. Lititcha biyat Plishtim. I'm going to give you to the Plishtim. So what does Shimshon say? Vayomer Shimon, at least hishavu li pentiv geun biatem. Give me a shvua, at least, that you will not hurt me. Vayomru lo lemor lo. We will not hurt you. Ki asor nesar chon sanuch. We will not do anything to you. We will bind you and give them to you. V'hamet lo nimitecha. We will not kill you. Vayasruhu. They bounded him. B'shnayim avotim chadashim. 2 strong ropes. Vayalu ben asel, and they took him away from the rock. By the way, just in Vayikra Rabbah it says, Vayomer lehem Shimshon hishavu li mikan shahaya yorei Shimshon me'ashvua. The Medrash says, we see here that Shimshon abided by shvuos. He was fearful of taking a shvuah. I mean, he was very careful with shvuos. Why is that? Says the Musar Navim, ki mishu ba'atzmo chashud al shvuah. If somebody doesn't care about oaths, lo yisvoch gam al shvuos chaveru. So when somebody gives you an oath, you won't rely on it. But you see, Shimshon relied on the oath that was given to him by the tribe of Yehuda. Ki kol adam ro'et chaveru shehu lo tov mimenu. People see his friend exactly like he sees himself. V'zeh klal ma'asher chazal kol haposel b'mumo posel. If you puzzle with your own flaw. Ki tamid nidmeh la'adam ki hachasaron sheyesh bo yesh gam b'chaveru. People think that the deficit that they have, their friends have the same deficit. Just a psychological insight that the Musar Nevi'im gives us. So the ropes were in new condition. So hu ba ad lechi. So they bring him to Lechi. This is a place. Uplishtim heiriu likrato. And the Plishtim are excited. Shouts of victory because he's being carried to them as a bound prisoner. But vatitzlach alav ruach Hashem. The Spirit of God descended on Shimshon. Vatiena ha'avotim asher al zro'otav. These ropes that were on his arms and legs, kapishtim asher baru va'esh. They were like flax burnt in fire. Vayimasu asher v'yalido, and they melted off of his hands. You see the koach that Hashem gives Shimshon. Pasuk Tezvav. Vayimsa lechi chamor triya. So there was a carcass of a donkey, and there was a sort of a jawbone. It was still moist. Vayishlach yado vayikachea. So he reached and got the jawbone. Vayachba elef ish. And he killed 1,000 Plishtim with the jawbone. Vayomer Shimshon b'lechia chamor chamorotayim. With the jawbone of a donkey, I made piles and piles of donkeys. Well, but he's referring to the Plishtim. With the jawbone of the donkey, heaps upon heaps. That's the chamor time.
He's taking credit for it himself.
Well, we'll see. Very good, Ellen. He doesn't say here anything about Ezra Hashem or anything like that. That's what he says. He says yes. With this lechi, I b'lechia chamor hikesi elef ish. He says with this jawbone, I killed 1,000 people, 1,000 men. So first, let's learn Gemara Nazir, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Nazir Shimshon Mutar Litami Lamesim. Remember this, we talked about standard Nazirus. If a person says already Nazir, you're a Nazir for 30 days. And you cannot drink wine, you cannot cut your hair, you cannot go to a funeral. That's it. 30 days go by and you take a haircut, you bring korbanos, and then you're back to normal. And Nazir Shimshon is somebody who's a Nazir from birth, basically. However, and therefore that's why Avshalom's hair was a Nazir Shimshon. He had very long hair. Remember, Avshalom is the son of David HaMelech. He's going to have a problem with his long hair. We'll leave that until we get to Malachim. But we're being told the law of Nazir Shimshon, you can be Metame Lamesim. The regular din of a Nazir doesn't apply to a lifelong Nazir. Because we see now Shimshon just killed all these people. Shekin Matzinu b'Shimshon shenitma. Uminolan dit Melamesim. Ilmola midachsiv b'lechiach chamori kesi alafish. Now, Pasuk Yud Zayin. Vahi kechalato ledaber. When he finished speaking, vayashlech halechem yado, he threw down the jawbone. Vayikra lamakom ahu ramat lechi, and he named it. Vayitzma ma'od, he became very thirsty. Listen, if you kill 1,000 men with a jawbone, you're going to get thirsty. Vayikra Hashem vayomar. Called out to Hashem. This is where Ellen, some of Forshim say, he was punished with Simaon, with extreme thirst, to the point where he thought he was going to die, because he didn't mention, Hashem when he took credit for killing all these people. Vayikra Hashem vayomar atana tata biyad avdecha. You gave me this victory. And now I'm going to die of thirst, and I'm going to fall into the hands of the uncircumcised. Hashem cracked open. The maktesh is like a depression that was in that rock. By Yatsum Mimenu Mayim Vayesh. Go back. Yeah.
Change to Midas Hadin, like Kim, right?
Midas Hadin. By Yatsum Mimenu Mayim Vayesh Vatasha Brucho Vayechi. He returned to life. Al Ken Karashma Ein HaKoreh Asher Balechi Arayom Hazeh. It's called Ein HaKoreh. Ein is like a spring. HaKoreh, that was because he called out to Hashem.
Is the term used, Arelim, for a non-Jew? Is that anywhere else appeared? Isn't that an unusual term?
No, because, like, for example, in the Parsha Korban Pesach, Arel Zachar lo yochel, the Arelim lo yachel. So even if you're a Jew, let's say your two older brothers died during circumcision. So there's a chazaka. I mean, today that doesn't happen, thank God. But before they knew about hemophilia and all that, there were deaths. So if two older brothers died, the third brother would not get circumcised. It would be usher to circumcise him. So he's a Jew who's an Orel. So it doesn't always mean that it usually refers to non-Jews, but it can refer to a Jewish uncircumcised male. Such a Jew cannot eat a Korban Pesach.
Even Moshe Rabbeinu's son went uncircumcised as they came back from Midian.
Correct?
Arelim, called them an Arel.
Well, because they were traveling. He thought they were traveling, right? And it's a danger when you travel, but, seaport, once they got to the hotel, that's a different story. Right. There's a Gemara, there's a Sifri in Vet Chanan. Because Shimshon says, Atana tata biyad avdecha. Shimshon characterizes himself as a servant of Hashem. Yesh shekoru atzman avadim, v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu karam avadim. There are some people who call themselves Eveds, and Hashem called them Eved. But we know Moshe Eved Hashem, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu certainly called Moshe Eved, okay. So Yesh shekoru atzman avadim, v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu karam avadim. Yesh shekoru atzman avadim, v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo karam avadim. There are some people who call themselves Avdei Hashem, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not refer to them that way. The Yesh shelo karatz mavadim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu karam avadim. There are those that they didn't call themselves avadim, but Hashem called them. Shimshon kara atzmo eved, sheneamar atana tata biyad avdecha, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo kara eved. There's nowhere where Hashem called him an Eved Hashem. And the Minchas Ketana on Atana Tata B'Yad Avdecha says that what Shimshon meant, mityareani, I'm fearful, shekatonti mikol chasadim, I'm not worthy of all these cheseds you've been doing for me. Shasita chuag dolali, you've done a great victory for me. While Cain, therefore Shimshon thought, mityareani, I'm fearful, she'ata, now, shekvar kibalti mimcha chesed gadol, shigrom chetili pol biyad harelim, that the various sins I've done, remember, if you have sins, but if you have zechuyos, they'll protect you. But if your zechuyos, your merits have been paid out already, he was afraid he was gonna fall again into the hands of the harelim. And the Malach had told the parents, Hu Yachel LaHoshia, that Shimshon was going to begin the process of salvation from the Plishtim. So Shimshon is concerned, listen, I just killed 1,000 men, I've killed others, maybe I'm done. Right? Because he says, Gam Yisyarni shekvar niskayma haftachas hamalach v'hu Yachel LaHoshia. Mashma Yachel v'lo yigmor. Yachel means you're going to start, but that doesn't mean he's going to finish. Maybe I'm done, and now I'm going to fall to the Plishtim. And that this Hatzama Bali Ali Zod, and maybe that's why I'm suffering from this thirst. But he says I needed it physically because I have so much exertion. And he begs Hashem to save him so he can finish the Yeshua.
Isn't it a schus for Shimshon that he voluntarily gave himself up to be given to the Plishtim?
So, Ellen, what was your question?
Isn't it a schus for him that he voluntarily gave himself up to the Plishtim so as not to have the Plishtim extract vengeance on Shevet
Yes, we're gonna read a nice shot on that. Absolutely, we will see that very shortly. Now, on the Vayvakalu Imet HaMachtesh Asher Balechi, this is from Sota Daf Tes. All of the Gemaras on Shimshon is Sota Daf Tes Amud Aleph. All of them are there. Sota Daf Tes Amud Aleph. On Rav Yitzchak Tvei Ravami, Hu Iva L'Davar Tamei, L'Kach Nitlu Chayav B'Davar Tamei. He wanted to marry an Isha, a non-Jewish woman. So meaning his desire was for something that was Tamei. So Lefichach Nitlu Chayav B'Davar Tamei. His life was put into threat by the jawbone of a chamor, which is a non-kosher animal. That's really what the Medrash is saying here. That's what the Gemara is saying. Because if it wasn't for the fact that he had to use this lechi chamor to kill all these people, he would not have had this deathly thirst. So the Medrash sees a midah keneged midah here. Again, these chazals that show the einayim aspect of Shimshon. So pasuk Chav, give me the mail notice, because what Ellen said is here. Let's show that. Oh, let me just read the Musar Nevi'im here.
Lechi, right?
Say
Because
again?
lechi has two meanings here.
Yeah, lechi is the jawbone, and the lechi is used as this crack or depression in the rock.
It's weird.
Vayishpot et Yisrael b'mei plishtim 20 shana. Shimshon served as a shofet in the times of Plishtim 20 years. Says the Minchas Ketana. So first of all, the Radak says, "Biyamim sheplishtim moshlim b'Yisrael b'hu oshia mehem, afal pi shlo hayta teshuatam shlema." Right, the Teshua was not shown. The Plishtim were still around when after Shimshon, there's still Plishtim. The Plishtim have suffered, and we're going to see lots of casualties, but he didn't destroy them completely. He begins. And so what does it mean that he now was shoifet them for 20 years? So the Minchas Ketana, Aval Pishayu Plishtim Moshlim b'Yisrael, they were still ruling them. Lo Herimu Rosh Negdo. They didn't do anything against Shimshon. V'hu Shafat Yisrael b'Meim ba'al korcham shelo b'tovatam. Right? He served as a judge for Klal Yisrael during the time of Plishtim, and they weren't happy about it. V'hayazel lahem ki kotzim b'neim, was like thorns in the Plishtim's eyes. And we call Malcolm lo hiriu Plishtim l'shomorim Yisrael, and the Plishtim didn't cause any trouble for any Jews. Ki yadu she'en yad adam b'mal hazeh ki imru v'ado asam ma she'asa. Look, the Plishtim said, look, this one guy, look what he's doing to us. V'gam lo ba'u od levaksho lesor, they didn't come anymore to the Jewish people to bind Shimshon, to take him back to them. He was able to get rid of his own bonds. So there's too much trouble, and the Plishtim backed off. And that's why there was quiet for 20 years. Now, so to Daf Yud. Vayishpot Yisrael b'mei Plishtim 20 shana on Rav Yochanan, Shimshon dan et Yisrael ka'aviyam shabashamayim. Wow. This is, you see the tragedy of Shimshon. The description of Shimshon is he's like the highest. He's done it Israel like Hashem, like Aviyam Shabashamayim. Shenemar, because the bracha that Yaakov Avinu gives Dan is Dan Yadin Amo ke'echad mishivtei Yisrael, and that's a reference to Shimshon, who is Dan them. Now let's see the Musar Nevi'im here. Yesh lanu leva'er eza davar tov hayan nimtza b'Shimshon she'efshar yeh lomar alav shehu dan et Yisrael ke'ein dugma shel mala. The Musar Nevi'im is asking us all together here. What is it that Shimshon did so good that this Gemara says that Shimshon has judged us like Hashem? Vanirel Omar. This is the Musar Nevi'im speaking. Shezeu, the Neba Kodesh Baruch Hu Nemar, Va'esa etchem al kanfei nesharim. In Parshas Yisro, Hashem is described as carrying the Jewish people on the wings of eagles. Perush Rashi, Shanesher nosenes banav al knafav hu omer im yizrok adam bichetz mutav shikanes achetz bi v'lo bivni. Some birds, when they fly, they hold their young in their claws, so the young are below them. The nesher puts the children on his wings, and the nesher says if a hunter is going to shoot an arrow at me, I'd rather the arrow go into me than into my children. Af hamakom also came. HaKadosh Baruch Hu treats us the same way. Kirichsiv. Vayisam alach Elokim. Vayavo bein machane Mitzrayim. Right? Hashem put a pillar of fire at night and a pillar of cloud in between the Jewish camp and the Egyptian camp was chasing them. V'ayu Mitzrayim zorkim chitzim v'avnei blisteros v'anan mekablam. And the Egyptians are throwing spears and rocks and arrows, and the cloud and the fire is absorbing it all, protecting Klal Yisrael. V'nei kedugma zot, in this fashion, itnayeh gam ken Shimshon in Israel. Shimshon really did the same thing. Kishabau plishtim al Yehuda, when the plishtim came to the tribe of Yehuda, bikshu mehem shim Shimshon, and they requested Shimshon to be delivered to them. Nisratzel is Shimshon ba'atzmo, like Ellen said. Shimshon went by himself. Bichdei latzil ipnei Yisrael mitgarat yadei plishtim. He wanted to save the Jewish people from punishment from the plishtim. Uva'oto sha'ach hashav ki mutav hu yoter shehu levado yipol bi'adam uvavat shlo yanezek v'takala Yisrael. So he felt at this time it's better for me to fall into the hands of the plishtim, and I will suffer the fate due to me and protect the rest of Klal Yisrael. V'yesh b'zeh shvach gadol l'Shimshon shehu ke'ein dugmat shel mala. This explains the Musa Nevi'im, why he's considered like Danit Yisrael Kavim Shabashamayim. And b'psik the Zutra Sabrashis Memtes ite ke'echad shiftei Yisrael zeh Shimshon sheshovat Yisrael v'oshiyam yad plishtim v'shafat et shiftei Yisrael ke'echad ke'kadosh baruch hu shenikra echad k'shem shayin HaKadosh Baruch Hu matrech al Yisrael yoter midai. Baruch Hu doesn't cause us too much trouble. Kach Shimshon did not cause. It's not like Gidon gathered 10,000 soldiers. Shimshon is not asking anything from Klal Yisrael. He's doing it all himself. So just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not matriach us when he goes to do battle, Shimshon is doing the same. So Ellen, you were mechaven to the right shot there.
Ernie, what is the original source of Kenesher? Al Kanfei Nesharim, the guy.
No, that's in Vayisro.
I know the sources, but no, the commentary of protecting the Nesher, protecting its young on its wings above it because it's
Rashi.
high.
Look, that's in Shmos Yutes, where it says Va'esai etchem al Kanfei Nesharim. That's what. Look at Rashi there. That's the source, Rashi.
No, I'm very familiar with that pasuk, but I'm asking you, what is this? Who is the commentator who said that? Who drew the example of the Nesher protecting its young on its wings rather than in the claws beneath it, because it flies high. What's the original source of that?
Okay, no, I read that's Rashi. A Nesher notenet panav al ktefav uomer mizrok adam bichetz. Mutav shichnos achetz bi v'lo bivni. Ava makom asaken. That's just Rashi. That was me who commented about, because we know some birds fly with the children in their whatever you call it, into their claws.
In their claws.
And that's why if an arrow is shot from the ground, so the children will be killed.
Okay, and what is the parallel to Danya Din Amo Ka'achad Shiftei Yisrael?
Okay, so the Achad is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Shimshon was done, Klal Yisrael, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu who is the Echad, that's the connection to Shimshon is done as Yisrael Kavim Shabashamayim. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I think, let me see. Okay, it's 9:00.
Comments, talk about it.
Next week is the
movie.
Next week is the climax. So it may take 2 weeks to go through that parak. Maybe not. We'll see. And any comments on tonight's parak? We don't hear you, Ellen.
I was looking yesterday at the Yalkut Me'am Loes.
Yes.
So there's a whole section here that that Shimshon coming from Dan is like a snake.
Correct. I'm looking right at it as well. Yehi dan nachash ale derech. Nimshal Shimshon l'nachash. Why? Mipnei kama dimyonot sheyesh behem. Because a snake does vengeance, like when you step on a snake, he gets very angry and he bites you back. Kach haya Shimshon no came v'noter b'plishtim. And the way a nachash ohev dvash, kach ahav Shimshon dvash. And there's he goes through, the Ameamos goes to town on this Vayishpot Yisrael b'mei plishtim asrim shana. So there's other things we could say about it, but it brings the drushes that we learned tonight, and there's a lot more. Those that don't have the Ameamos, it's a very good source.
The Hebrew is easy to read too. I mean,
yeah. The Me'am Loez is a very good source.
It also compares, it talks about Shimshon and David and Shlomo all being enticed by foreign women.
Right. So tonight we learned the Rambam that talked about Shlomo and Shimshon. David, I don't know about foreign women, but he's talking. I think they're talking about the wife of Uriah, Bathsheba.
Yeah.
But who's quote unquote a foreign woman to him, right? She was an Eshes Ish. Now we're going to learn that sugya very carefully. At the time of David HaMelech, the soldiers of David HaMelech would give their wives a divorce before they went to battle. So technically, she wasn't an Eshes Ish. So we're going to have a debate when we get to that. Well, we get just as we've seen here as going through the Nevi'im, where we see a machlokas. Did Yiftach kill his daughter? Did he not kill his daughter? Did Shimshon convert his wives? Did he not convert his wives? So we'll see over there at David HaMelech, a big debate about Bathsheba regarding that. But yes, he lumps all three of them together. David, Shlomo, and they were all nichshal by women, is basically that little segment that he deals with there. By the way, this just to close, those of us in the Daf Yomi together, remember there's a Gemara that the Chazal, when they came back after the Churban Bayis Rishon, after the destruction of the first temple, they were saying, well, how are we going to prevent another Churban? So they said, well, what led to the Churban? So they said Avodah Zarah. So they davened, and the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah went away. So one of the other Talmidim said, well, what about there was also Gilui Arroyos? So they davened that the desire for sexuality would also be either removed or diminished. Let's say removed. So there the Gemara says, well, the chicken stopped laying eggs. So they had to remove that. So but the cherem against Avodah Zarah remains. So for example, those of us who take a lot of driving around the country, whatever, and you see a totem pole, how many of us have a cheshek to worship the totem pole? We see it's not there anymore, right? Everything we've been learning about the Yoshua, Shoftim, right, about the idol worship of Baal, we see that. So you see that, but we all know what the desire, the sexual desire is. That's something we can relate to. Because that was not taken away. And so what's interesting is that this issue of Shimshon and David and Shlomo is all the issues that we see a lot of these earlier generations had with Avodah Zarah. Well, that doesn't exist anymore because the whole Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah went away. But perhaps what we have to work on is this other thing, and of course we live in Hollywood and all of that. I remember every great Rav that always used to come and speak to us in Israel would always, oh, we're here in the shadow of the Hollywood sign. They understood that in Los Angeles, but so it's just food for thought.
I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. When years ago, when the Vishnitzer Rebbe, not the Vishnitzer, from Muncie, what's his name, from New Square, the Square Rebbe came.
Yeah. Yes.
So the Rebbitzin stayed at Rivki's house because they have like a family relationship. So
Rivki Weiss. Rivki Weiss.
well, her mother's a Hager. So, and she's a Hager. The Rebbitzin was a Hager. Rivki schlepped me along. She invited my mother and myself to eat with them because she didn't eat with the men. So Steve sat with David Hager in another room. And so on Sunday, she had a very busy schedule with the Rebbe Beak here. Sunday afternoon, she was sort of free. And I knew Rivki was running ragged, taking care of all the guests. So I said to her, I'll take the Rebbitzin out. I had been spending time with her. So I was trying to figure out what am I going to do with the Rebbitzin. And she had like a daughter and daughters-in-law and a friend. So I figured I'm going to take her up to Runyon Canyon. She wanted to see something of nature. But I took her up through Mulholland. And then we walked down to and you get a beautiful view of the whole city. You can see the airport, you can see the mountains. So the first thing I said to her was, you realize that, I know she's going to see a lot of people not dressed the way she's dressed. I said, the people are not going to look the way we look. They're going to be, dressed very casually. She said, it's okay. It's a woman. It's all right. Then as we were driving up there, she saw the Hollywood sign. So she says to me, what is Hollywood? I was at a loss for words. I couldn't explain to her. What was I going to tell her?
Wow.
It was a very big plus. Then I took her to the Pacific Ocean. I guess she wanted to make a bracha on the ocean. It was a very interesting weekend, to say the least.
Okay.
I just wanted to say about Shimshon, one thing